everyone, it's Carol here at Aakash Journals, and I'm going to have a go at doing prompt number 11 today in my Junk Journal July journal. And the prompt, as you've just seen for number 11, is paper samples. So I thought immediately of something that I did in this little journal when I was doing the Raining Woods series. And oh, I've got some extra pieces of vellum tucked away. This is just a little journal that I was happily playing in, trying to do some very minimalistic, I call them Asian style collages. And you can see they're just very, very simple. But the one that came to mind was this one. And I thought that this would hit the prompt for paper samples because it is just layers upon layers of lovely papers with a vellum picture on the top. There's a little piece of vellum behind there and a little faux stamp up there. So I thought I would have a go at doing something along the lines of what I've done here in this little Raining Woods journal. So I've lifted out some gorgeous papers out of my stash. I've got some of those faux postage stamps. I've got some labels here, a couple of labels or packets of labels. I've got some handmade paper here that's shot through with green and some little grasses. Hope you can pick that up there. I've got this pad here of handmade papers, all in shades of pink. There's a little piece of embossed paper there. There's a little stamped piece of handmade paper there, and this is some handmade paper that I made. This looks like handmade paper, but it's a photocopy of handmade paper, but it's got quite a nice texture to it. Here I've got some embossed papers, and you can see that I'm more or less going down a pink theme. So as you can see, I've just got some embossed papers here. So that's some white embossed. This is wallpaper that I've embossed. And what else have I got in the back here? Yeah, some other pieces of just embossed paper. This is some lovely handmade paper that's got tiny, tiny little speckles of silver and gold in it. What else have I got? Oh, I've got that scrap. Yeah, this is some handmade paper, but it's quite fine, and as you can see, it's been printed on with calendar details. I've got this little card here that's stamped onto some handmade paper, and then some other pieces here, and a big leaf there. Quite like this paper. And then I've got some here which is equally lovely, but I think this might be too purpley for what I have in mind. So I'm just going to see what I can pull together for this one, and I will pop back at the end for a little chat and to show you some photographs so you can have a look in more detail at what I've managed to put together. So here I've just lifted out a few labels. I'm trying to replicate more or less the same labels that I used in the Raining Woods journal. That little green one was something I quite liked, and you'll see that appear on the left-hand page as a tuck-in for that interactive feature that I've got there for the previous prompt. So I've more or less got my labels aligned how I want them, and here I'm just going in auditioning all those pieces of handmade paper. And I've got a little vellum image there, floral image that I thought I would use. Having auditioned all the paper, I decided that I'm going to commit to those three labels as they were. So I put a dab of glue to hold them. And having gone through all those handmade papers, I decide on this piece, purely because it's got a hint of dusky pink down the right hand side, and that is perfect for picking up the pink in the image on the page opposite. So I'm just going in here, tearing it so that I can get it to fit nicely behind those labels. Just tearing away a little at a time. And I tear away too much, have to do a bit of a running repair there, but it worked okay. So I'm liking it on the right hand side. Decide I need to shorten it, which I've just done. Well, I've just folded it up there, and I don't want it peeping out on the left hand side. I did pull out three other pieces of paper, and you see me keeping
sorry, you'll see me that I keep on going back to that dusky pink large piece of handmade paper. Not convinced it goes on that background, but I do love it behind the labels with that dusky pink in the handmade paper on the right hand side. Here I'm going in to grab a piece of vellum out of my scrap wallet, and I'm just tucking it underneath and down the left hand side, having it peeping out so that I've got some interest. Here I'm trimming it so it's straight. I will be trimming the length down, and I decide I like it, so I'm just going to rip a piece off the bottom in a moment or two. Again, just adjusting that piece of dusky pink handmade paper. I'm liking the piece of vellum, but I decide that I want a rough torn edge peeping out on the left hand side. Don't like the bold writing on that little image I've chosen, and you'll see I eventually changed that out completely. It wasn't working for me. So here I'm going in with one of these Washi faux stamps. These are very old, so they definitely need gluing down, and I managed to find one that was dusky pink, which was perfect. And yeah, here I am finding another image that I can use, auditioning a couple, but I go with the first one that I chose, I think. Yes. And again, I'm chopping off the bold writing at the top. And a little dab of glue, because I wanted to be able to lift it up or flip it up, as I do with all of these. Back in with that handmade dusky pink paper. Just love that, and it really felt like it finished it off. Now that piece that I'm auditioning on the right there is that white handmade paper that is shot through with dots of gold and silver, and I was toying with the idea of using that. This is that handmade paper with the calendar information down the right hand side. The calendar information is in purple, so even though it's very subtle, I didn't think it would work, but I thought it might be better than using this dusky pink. But in the end I decided, hell, I'm just going to go with it. So here you see me ripping it so that I've got torn edges on 3 sides. It is too short for what I have in mind, so there you see I'm just adding at the top a little bit of the paper that I tore away at the side, and I'm gluing it on to make it slightly longer in length. And there's my piece going on the top. So I've committed to that, put a little bit of glue at the top there to hold all my pieces in place, a little bit of glue underneath, leveling off the top, because invariably nothing's straight, punching a little hole, and here I'm going in with a brad. I try a little gold brad first off, decide it's too small and the gold isn't right, so I go in with a brass coloured one, antique brass, and here I'm using a little bit of Avril art twine just to add a hint of detail, the same as I used on the Raining Woods one, and I'm just putting a dab of glue across the top just to hold it in place on my page. So this is my final page, everybody. Very similar to the one I did in Raining Woods in terms of using the same labels, popping a stamp up there. I really was having a little bit of difficulty trying to transition onto this paper. I kept on coming back to this lovely sort of dusky pink because it was the perfect colour to pick up the tones in this handmade paper here, the stamp, and even the little flowers. I changed those out from gardenias to these climbing roses. I love that, but I wasn't sure whether that actually went with the background paper. But in the end, I decided I would just go with it. So it is a collage, but it is samples of papers, because I've got obviously sample of printed vellum, a label, couple of labels, I've got this handmade paper, I've got some more vellum, and I've got this handmade paper, and I've got a faux stamp there. So yeah, it is a loose interpretation of the prompt for paper samples, but I'm
okay with it. I really didn't like the dividing line I had here between the two pages. I did think that by picking pinks from this and this pink line that it would flow better, but it really didn't, and I had a stark cream here against this light beige handmade paper, so I just put a little bit of washi tape over the join and just took it to underneath this dusky pink handmade paper there, just to kind of soften it a little bit. So there we go, everybody. This is my page for this particular prompt, and the next prompt is number 12, gratitude. Oh goodness, right, okay. I'll have to have a think about that one. Oh goodness. All right, everybody, whilst I'm having a mild panic here about the next prompt, have a lovely day. Keep smiling, keep crafting, and I hope you'll come and join me for the next video for prompt number 12. But until then, bye bye from me. Bye bye now.